A week before the apocalypse, my dad brought his mistress and her daughter into the house. 6 people are trapped in a 90 square meter room when the apocalypse arrives. My dad is obsessed with his mistress, and my brother is infatuated with the mistress's daughter. Finally, they threw me and my mom into the zombie horde. As soon as I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day he brought people to my door. Mom stands in front of me. I only want 2 million and this apartment. A week before the apocalypse, my dad cheated, entering the house with his mistress and her daughter. He wants to force my mom to divorce. My mom doesn't agree. It's not that I can't bear to part with this fickle man, but she couldn't bear to part with the family fortune he had built from scratch. He hated even more that he wanted to kick his mediocre lover up to a position to enjoy the benefits. Thus, a dispute over marital property has begun, until the apocalypse arrives a week later. 6 people are crammed into a small 90 square meter house, and supplies are extremely scarce. In the apocalypse, everyone is on edge. Whoever has the strongest military power has absolute say. Mom and dad automatically split into 2 camps, fighting for the few resources available to survive. My mother and I thought that our 20-year-old brother would unconditionally stand by our side. I didn't expect that he had secretly fallen in love with the burden brought by his mistress, Tao Ruru. Early on, running over eagerly to be a sycophant, take care of her and pamper her, afraid that she won't have enough to eat or sleep well, they became a family of 4, and my mom and I could only be driven to the bathroom, unable to eat a bite of their leftover scraps for 2 or 3 days. We have thought about resisting, but the apocalypse is no longer a society governed by law. There is no order, no law, only the survival of the fittest. My mom is a housewife, and I am even more cowardly. Under my dad's punches and kicks, I had no strength left to fight back. Not only are they starved to the point of looking haggard, but they also have to endure the strange behavior of Tao Mei and Tao Ro. Before the apocalypse, my mom loved to hoard things, but even with sufficient supplies, the resources in a small house of 90 square meters are limited, not to mention so many mouths to feed. In the end, to prevent us from starving to death and stinking in the house, they directly threw me and my mother into the zombie horde. Mom kneels down and begs them to let me go, constantly bowing and praying. The pride of the past is gone, blood stains the thin forehead. Everyone knows that a house with tightly closed doors is at least a shelter. If you go out, you could be torn apart by zombies in minutes, and if you're lucky, you might freeze to death in extremely cold weather. She said she is willing to leave on her own. She said she can go out alone to find supplies. Just leave me, ask them to keep me. I felt a sharp pain in my nose, fully waking up, only to see He Xiong angrily push, and my mom was knocked down to the ground just like I was a moment ago. It turns out that we don't even have to wait for the apocalypse to come. These beasts have already revealed their true forms. I gritted my teeth and stood up, looking at the indifferent, good brother, He Yunzhao, standing by. He cast a fierce gaze at He Xiong and the mother-daughter duo, Tao Mei and her daughter. Behind him, what kind of look are you giving me, old man? You have been spoiled by your mom since you were little for being disrespectful and unfilial. You should learn more from your gentle sister in the future. He Xiong pointed at me, spitting as he spoke. Learn from her. Does she seduce people? Wait a moment. Rush up and bite off that impolite finger first. Before I could make a move, my mom stood up and blocked my way. I only saw her dry and messy hair and her voice, which was extremely calm compared to before. I agree to the divorce. The son belongs to you, the daughter belongs to me. I only want 2 million in this apartment. Yuji didn't say a word and nodded in agreement. Compared to his thriving company, this house he has lived in for several years, and 2 million is nothing. He even asked back a question. Are you not trying to deceive me? Tao Mei, standing behind him, immediately comfortingly took his hand. Afraid that He Xiong would give him another child, she smiled proudly yet subtly. Ms. Jiang, I didn't mean to destroy your family. I only found out he had a family after I truly fell in love with old He. However, you can't blame old He for this. If he doesn't choose someone like you, who else would he choose? What a cheap mouth. My fists were clenched so tightly that they turned white, wishing I could hammer a dent into her silicone face. But in the next moment, my mom's calloused hand gently wrapped around me. I certainly don't blame you. What is there to be proud of for taking a rotten cucumber from me? Mom laughed mockingly and changed her expression. I give you 2 minutes to get out of my territory, 2 million by tomorrow morning, or I can change my mind at any time. By the way, I only want cash. A few people quickly scattered like birds and beasts, and even He Yunzhao hesitantly followed Tao Ruru's backside. The aggression on my mother's body dissipated in an instant, and she turned around to look at me. Just when I was confused, she gently touched my swollen forehead with concern. Autumn, Mom is here. I suddenly had tears in my eyes. The strong facade collapses. I thought I would have to face the treacherous human heart and the harsh end times alone in this life. I feel both fortunate and anxious, but my mom said she is coming. We quickly tidied up our mood and prepared to welcome the impending apocalypse. It took us more than 2 hours to clear out the belongings of the father and son, as well as some unnecessary clutter. The house of over 90 square meters suddenly became vacant in 2 rooms. It will also be convenient for stockpiling supplies in the future. When my mom went down to take out the trash, I squatted on the coffee table planning what to buy, thanks to the developed internet. There are all kinds of popular science resources. I searched for essential supplies for the apocalypse on a certain platform and immediately got thousands of responses. I collected a list of items and quantities that he said he needed to prepare, which received over 10,000 likes. Basic supplies such as rice, flour, and cooking oil are being stockpiled according to a plan of over a dozen boxes, along with important items like white sugar and various vitamin and mineral tablets, etc. In their previous life, He Xiong and his son, as the 2 strongest fighters, never went out to look for supplies. Only in the case of starving to death without going out until the end must one take a chance within the community, but the things in the community have long been looted clean. The little bits they found were not enough for the 4 of them to fight over. My mom and I don't even have those little bits, let alone anything else. We can only drink water in the bathroom to fill our hunger. The last person was as thin as a skeleton, but their belly was like a balloon filled with water. I quickly divided the shopping list into tasks for 2 people. Although there is still a week left, some items cannot be delivered in just a day or 2. Buying too much at once can also raise suspicions. It will be faster if the 2 people split up to buy. Cho. Mom thinks the house needs to be reinforced a bit more. She was panting and leaning against the door frame. Those 2 people really had a lot of stuff. The largest snakeskin bag had been thrown back and forth 7 or 8 times. From the perspective of the previous life, apart from the lack of resources, our family was still safe. However, we must remain vigilant, as we do not know how long the apocalypse will last, nor do we know if changes will occur in the future. I don't know if those 4 scumbags and shameless women will brazenly come over to take over. I looked at my mother's tightly furrowed brows, filled with deep sorrow. The experiences of our past lives were too painful for us, which is why we cherish this miracle even more. So I plan to replace all the glass in the house with bulletproof glass, change the front door to an armored door, and weld an iron gate outside the front door for double protection. Indeed, safety in the apocalypse is the most important thing. No matter how secretly we procure supplies, there will always be traces left behind. 2 weak women in the apocalypse, carrying a large amount of supplies, are undoubtedly the prey that everyone is thinking about. In the end times, people's hearts are hard to gauge, but He Xiong and the others' hearts can be clearly understood from their past lives. I poured a glass of cool boiled water for her to take her time. I agree. But wouldn't it be a bit too showy to hire someone to install it? Living well, suddenly arming the whole house for no reason is bound to attract attention. When the apocalypse arrives and everyone comes to their senses, this small house of over 90 square meters will still be a target of caution. At least those who come out to scavenge for supplies prefer this place. Mom gently patted my hand to comfort me. I thought about this all the way when I just took out the trash. We definitely can't buy so many supplies without leaving a trace, so we need to reinforce it well. The master we invited is from outside, and my mom has already thought of a reason. I became interested and quickly asked, "What reason?" Just as she was about to speak, He Yunzhao suddenly appeared behind her. He stood hesitantly, awkwardly scratching his head. "Mom, what are you and sister talking about? When did He Yunzhao come back again? This didn't happen in my previous life." My expression is stiff. Sure enough, the wings flutter slightly, and everything changes. Why are you back if you're not going to follow your cheating biological father to be the mistress of his lover? Mom reacted, looking at him coldly, her words devoid of emotion yet laced with sarcasm. Mom, don't speak so harshly. I know you have resentment in your heart because of Dad's situation, but feelings can't be forced, just treat it as He Yunzhao. Hearing Jiang Yi sarcastically criticize He Xiong and Tao Mei, felt a surge of anger and defended them, but then realized he had no real position and began to mutter weakly, just consider that you and Dad are not meant to be. Mom, I'm not here to apologize to you. I'm just here to take a few pieces of clothing, preparing to stay at Aunt Tao's house for a while. You don't have to speak so harshly, Aunt Tao is really nice. And Xiao Rou has been feeling guilty for disrupting our family. And you asked Dad for 2 million, which has already drained all his cash flow. He is now in a desperate situation trying to raise money. We all don't have money to stay in a hotel, so we can only temporarily squeeze into Aunt Tao's small apartment. We have already regressed. It's pointless for you to create a situation where both sides suffer. Can't we all sit together peacefully and talk? He Yunzhao shook his head somewhat resentfully, walked into the house, and was stunned the next moment. Where are my things, Buer? Mom sneered and said lightly, go dig through the trash can downstairs yourself. He Yunzhao was so angry that he took off his hat and slammed it hard on the ground to show his anger. He Xiong's hometown has always had a bit of a preference for sons over daughters, and He Yunzhao has been particularly self-centered under the favoritism of He Xiong and the people from his hometown since childhood. I remember when he was young. He wrote an essay assigned by the school to introduce family members. He said he is the little emperor of the family, He Xiong is the grand emperor, and my mom and I are the first and second maids. Jiang Yi, is it really necessary? No wonder Dad chose Aunt Tao. A woman like you can't be lived with. Don't think that throwing away my things can provoke me. Since I was little, my dad and they have always spoiled me. But you keep asking me this and that. I've long stopped wanting to acknowledge you as my mom. Mom is still so angry that her eyes are red. Although Qian Shijun is a beast and lacks a conscience, hearing him admit it in person still makes my heart cold again. She wiped her tears fiercely, as if severing the mother-son bond that had lasted for so many years. Get lost. I'll just pretend I don't have a son like you. Go back and tell your dad that I want to see 2 million before I wake up tomorrow. Otherwise I will go back on my word and fight him for the company's shares. I have evidence of his infidelity. He Yunzhao turned around and left. I have never had deep feelings for this younger brother since childhood, let alone the experiences from our past lives. I called out to him, my gaze playfully provocative, brother, don't regret it. He Yunzhao turned back and disdainfully snorted, emphasizing, I'm the one following Dad, so if there's anyone to regret, it should be you, right? In order to make it convenient for He Xiong to come over the next day to deliver money, the gate password was deliberately not changed. Time is tight and the tasks are heavy. My mom and I took the money and went out for a big shopping. Women have a talent for shopping. 2 million is reserved with 600,000 for reinforcing the house, and the remaining 1,400,000, along with our mother-daughter savings, will be used to purchase supplies. In order to avoid drawing attention, we rented a small warehouse near the community in advance. It is convenient to transport supplies home quietly in the deep of night. Purchasing is primarily about staple food. The feeling of being so hungry in a past life that it made me anxious and weak can be experienced again just by recalling it. Rice vermicelli compressed biscuits. Overall, it has addressed the long-standing demand for basic needs. Next, we will purchase meat, eggs, dairy products, seasonings, vegetables, fruits, and high-calorie snacks with a relatively short shelf life. This apocalypse is more severe than described in all the novels, not only with man-eating zombies but also with the need to guard against extreme weather, daily necessities, medical drugs, energy issues, and protective tools are things my mom and I buy whenever we can. The day after receiving the money, the out-of-town renovation company came to the door, installing armored doors, bulletproof glass, soundproof panels, blackout curtains, knocking and tapping, fiddling around all day. a neighbor came to question, and my mom was already prepared, her eyes reddened, wanting to speak but hesitating. My son has been diagnosed with a mental illness. A few neighbors who were disturbed by the noise took a deep breath to speak. Really? My mom wiped away non-existent tears and nodded slightly. Everyone, don't be afraid. It's not aggressive. The doctor said it's a delusion of persecution. All day long worried that someone wants to kill him, feeling that everyone outside is a murderer, even worried that someone has poisoned his food. This is it. Begging me to replace the doors and windows at home. Saying they are afraid someone will break in and rob. Oh dear, what should I do about this, son? Yes, it seems like I haven't seen your Yun Zhao for a few days. The neighbor awkwardly sighed, and with a sympathetic look, didn't know what else to say. After my mom brought up a bag of gift-wrapped Thai jasmine rice, she understood it more and more with every word. This small package of Thai fragrant rice was a gift from the rice merchant during a large purchase. And there are several more bags in the living room. Having a mental illness is not something to be proud of. I'm afraid someone will discriminate against my son. So please, neighbors, don't spread it around. When you have someone in your hands, you can't be too harsh. They repeatedly assure that they won't speak carelessly. That night, when I returned from shopping, I laughed so hard at this reason that I was shaking all over. Moreover, I guess that with these gossipy neighbors, the news that Yun Zhao is a lunatic will definitely spread everywhere. But the renovation issue seems less interesting, because we generously paid for the expedited service. The house reinforcement has already been completed by 70% in just 2 days, and it may take another morning to finish. Fortunately, Mom supervises at all times, so there's no worry about cutting corners. The supplies in the warehouse are almost at full capacity. Not to mention that the items ordered online will be delivered tomorrow, so after the workers leave, we need to quickly move those things home to make space for the upcoming deliveries. When there was half a day left until the end of the world, my mom and I prepared to go out for a good meal. The mother and daughter tacitly saved 1,000 yuan, planning to go to the best mall for a big meal and also pack a few portions to eat over the next 2 days. These days, every time I open my eyes, it's about purchasing various materials and monitoring the reinforcement process. Although I'm tired, I feel very secure. Sister, a woman's voice stopped my and my mother's leisurely stroll, and I tightened my grip on the shopping cart, feeling annoyed. Tao Ruru also held Tao Mei's hand and called me sister. Mom, you didn't secretly have any little wild kids or little bastards outside, did you? Of course not. Mom doesn't work the B shift. Tao Mei and Tao Ro's faces darkened for a moment, but after seeing our shopping cart full of food, they confidently shook the designer's shopping bags in their hands. Yo, Jiang Jia, why did you buy some food for Chiu Chiu? Didn't old he give you 2 million? Alas, but it's true, 2 million is really not enough. I went out with Xiao Ro today to buy a few pieces of clothing and almost spent a few tens of thousands. Tao Mei and Tao Ro smiled proudly and continued to say provocative things. It's also your fault for taking all the money that old he had for circulation at once. He promised me that after a while he would buy a house and bags for me and Xiao Ro. Mom, Aunt Jiang looks plain at first glance. She's not the kind of person who likes this kind of thing. Tao Mei and the other person chuckled, hearing their words. I secretly felt a sense of joy in my heart. Why does Mom only want 2 million? Because 2 million is all the funds that Xiong can currently put forward. Without this money, he and Yun Zhao would naturally move into Tao Mei's small apartment temporarily, since they were so loving and united in their past life. Please lock it in this life as well. Their smiles are as proud and flamboyant as those of victors. I indulgently watched them laugh, and after laughing, go back and change into the new clothes you bought to become the most fashionable zombie in the apocalypse. My mother and I looked at the two ignorant and fearless people, feeling that they were truly fortunate in their past lives. Unfortunately, the wheel of fortune turns, but before the retribution comes, I still want to give them a little lesson. I quietly let go of my mother's hand, while the old lady in little green tea on the opposite side were still laughing loudly. I rushed forward with all my strength and slapped 3 times hard. A small slap is 1, and a big one is 2 slaps. Why do you want to destroy my family? My dad is old, ugly, and messy. He doesn't wash his hair for 3 days and doesn't take a shower for 4 days. Can you really do it? And your daughter, those who know think you are her mother, and those who don't know might think you are her madam, and you, following the same lineage, got involved with my brother to the point where he doesn't even want his mother anymore. You are still so arrogant in front of the original partner. Everyone must avoid these two people at all costs. Originally, after I slapped them, the two were still thinking about retaliating, but as a result, I unleashed a barrage of words, attracting quite a few onlookers with their phones ready to watch. They didn't want to deal with social news and hurriedly left with a grim face. This day got dark faster than usual. Mom was afraid of causing too much trouble, so she didn't stay long and drove home. The pedestrians on the street are like those living in every ordinary day, hustling towards their livelihood and dreams. Passing by the small warehouse we rented, my mom and I exchanged a knowing smile. There are still quite a few long shelf-life supplies stored inside, and with the house already packed to the brim, these extra supplies are what we specifically set aside. I have also been continuously informing the date of the apocalypse as an anonymous prophet on various platforms, urging people to stock up on food and stay indoors. Although I was scolded badly, about half a month later, there will be quite a few people who have run out of supplies at home and have to come out to look for resources. Everyone has the right to live, and this is the greatest contribution they can make as fortunate individuals after ensuring their own safety. With the anti-theft iron door locked and the armored door closed, my mom and I lay comfortably on the soft sofa in the living room, sighing contentedly. Only one master bedroom remains as a sleeping place, while the other rooms are neatly piled with supplies. The restaurant also has a newly purchased freezer, because the community will still have power supply for the next 3 months, and we are equally prepared with a generator. The living room is 2/3 smaller than usual, yet it is still filled with things. This will make many people envious in the apocalypse. I bit the milk tea straw and sipped it absent-mindedly. Getting up to lift the blackout curtain a little, it has already turned completely dark outside. It is now nearly 4 in the afternoon, and the clever people have already become alert. The news about weather anomalies is being interrupted on the television, informing the public not to panic but still advising them to go home early. Under the warm yellow light of the kitchen, Mom is stuffing the things she bought today into the refrigerator, while a small pot on the induction cooker is bubbling with aroma. Mom, how long do you think it will take for them to come over and beg us? I asked playfully with malice. Mom paused for a moment and said softly, very soon. 2 hours have passed, and the outside world has become a complete mess. We are lying on the bed in the master bedroom, and the projector is playing a recently popular TV series. In the early days of the apocalypse, water, electricity, and the internet were still functioning normally. My mom and I coincidentally opened our social media feeds and scrolled down through a series of pictures and captions, excitedly taking a dynamic picture of a zombie going crazy, with the caption, "I see now. There really are zombies. Or is it some cosplayer big shot? Can the android girl see the dynamic picture?" I am shocked and anxious, asking in my social circle how to ensure safety while I am currently in the center of the crowd, also filming their loved ones being eaten by zombies. In a dozen or so moments, I refreshed and saw Tao Mei's post, which felt oddly out of place. She paired the picture with a sumptuous dinner table and 3 pairs of hands that were faintly visible around the table. The outside world is chaotic, but the years are peaceful. The following comment adds, "I don't know what new virus has emerged again, but fortunately my son bought a lot of things at home recently, so I can be at ease. He is really my good son." Tao Ruru also commented below, "Mom, have you forgotten your dear daughter now that you have a son? I'm going to tell Uncle. Boo-hoo, what did he Yunzhao stock up on?" Suppressing these 2 disgusting sentences, my mom and I exchanged a glance, frowning as we carefully recalled the strange occurrences of the past few days. That day, after He Xiong and the others left, He Yunzhao came back halfway. However, even if he eavesdropped, my mom and I didn't talk about anything crucial. How could he associate it with hoarding things? I suddenly slapped my forehead. I thought of it. The shopping list I wrote that day is on the coffee table. It's not surprising that He Xiaoyun walked in and threw a tantrum for a while. And at this time, seeing those few lists was also unintentional. However, Can he really think of stockpiling things in advance just based on the various things written on the paper? When did Yunzhao become so smart? Mom threw the phone onto the bed and said casually, "Cho-cho, you don't need to worry about so much anymore. Even if that unfilial child was clever and hoarded some supplies, it is just a drop in the bucket for the long and difficult apocalypse." She gently stroked my back again and again, her smile full of affection. Moreover, I saw the photos she sent. They are still temporarily living in that 50-square-meter duplex apartment, unable to stockpile too many supplies. Plus, with the consumption of 4 people, it won't last long, but there is plenty of time ahead. Mom actually knew about He Xiong's infidelity a long time ago, and even found out the details about Tao Mei, but she kept one eye open and one eye closed just to give me and He Yunzhao a complete family. After being reborn, I have a few thoughts of revenge in watching the show, knowing that they are not as miserable as I imagined. I feel an overwhelming resentment in my heart. However, what Mom said is not wrong. There is plenty of time ahead. If one had died from the zombie virus at the very beginning, it would have been somewhat too easy for them. I watched the latest episode of the TV series, and I don't know if there will be a sequel. My mom and I are feeling drowsy. At 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, the phone placed on the bedside table flashed a message, which was somewhat dazzling in the pitch-black room. "Mom, I was wrong to believe those 2 adulterers who destroyed families. I've realized my mistake, and I want to go home." On the other side, under the glow of the phone's blue light, He Yunzhao's face was pale and eerie, drenched in cold sweat. He tightly held his phone, curled up on the small bed in the temporary accommodation of the apartment. He was reborn on the first night of the apocalypse. In his previous life, he and his dad, under the instigation of Tao Mei and Tao Ro, threw his mom and sister into a zombie horde, but not long after, the 4 of them had to go outside the community to find supplies to fill their stomachs. As soon as Tao Mei and those 2 bitches went out, they immediately ran to a few strong men. He Yunzhao gritted his teeth and vowed to stay away from this vicious mother and daughter in this lifetime. His mother and sister are not bad. Now they have a house and resources, and they are still honest. Anyway, they don't know what happened in the previous life. In the past, whenever there was something good at home, it was always catered to him. He is the only son of the He family. Moreover, he guessed that they must have stockpiled quite a bit of supplies. Recently, he had the inexplicable urge to buy some things to put at Tao Mei's house because he accidentally saw the list placed on the coffee table. He Yunzhao relaxed and continued to lie down, feeling that this life was stable. I also saw the news from last night. I don't know what went wrong with He Yunzhao, or if he is just like us, reborn. I shook my head and continued to look up at the surveillance footage. This was set up by Mom at Tao Mei's house after discovering He Xiong's infidelity, initially to collect evidence of his cheating for the divorce lawsuit. However, it is useless as evidence now, but it can be kept to look at as a joke for a few months. In the surveillance, Uncle He Yunzhao sat on the sofa questioning why there were only 2 dry loose bread for breakfast. Tao Mei immediately took on the demeanor of the female master. "Yunzhao, didn't you check your phone? It's being said outside that we are in the apocalypse now, and we don't know when it will end. Things are definitely going to be in short supply, so we should use them sparingly. Otherwise, what will we eat in the future?" He Yunzhao was immediately furious. Right now, during the zombie outbreak, the danger level was very high. It would be better to wait for a good opportunity, use up the supplies here first, and then leave. Moreover, 70% of the things in this small apartment were bought by him that day, so he is the master of these things. Those 2 bitches have to look at his face for every needle and thread. In the surveillance video, He Yunzhao fell silent for a few seconds before suddenly jumping up, snatching the milk from Tao Mei's hand and throwing it to the ground. "Everything was bought by me. Why give it to your daughter and not to me? Next time you favor one over the other, I'll throw you down to feed the zombies." Tao Ruru was so scared that she was on the verge of tears. Tao Mei cried out that being a stepmother is difficult, while He Xiong angrily scolded He Yunzhao. Wonderful. My mom and I were laughing uncontrollably on the other end of the internet cable, as the saying goes. Evil people will meet their match. The apocalypse came fiercely and swiftly, and everyone quickly regained their composure. igniting the will to survive from the initial panic and fear. As the only family that reinforced their house before the end times, we naturally attract envy, especially in the community group. There was a subtle comment from a household that raises dogs, saying that one night while walking their dog, they saw us mother and daughter transporting supplies home with a cart. A single sentence arouses the speculation and associations of those who are tense. In the group, countless people started to mention us, questioning why we didn't inform the country in advance that the apocalypse was coming, cursing us as heartless and lacking conscience. I silently rolled my eyes. If we really promote the rhetoric of the apocalypse, I don't know if they will believe it. I only know that I should still be locked up in the station now, seeing that we have not come out to respond. Some people can't help but prepare to impose moral pressure. They take it for granted that we should provide them with supplies. A middle-aged man from Building 3, Room 402 said that his elderly mother, who is over 70, has been quite frightened lately and asked my family to provide some food and medicine. The tone of a great filial son in speech. I let out a light sneer. Who doesn't know that he is the infamous ungrateful person in the neighborhood? Leaving his elderly mother with Alzheimer's unable to take care of herself at home, while he spends his days doing nothing and living off her pension. Are you now shamelessly emphasizing your filial piety? A couple on the 6th floor of the same building sent a voice message directly in the group. The woman was crying, begging us to give them something, saying that their 5-year-old baby hadn't eaten enough for several days and was now running a high fever. Seeing this, I rolled my eyes even more. The baby they mentioned is a super masculine child, and they refused to have an abortion after it was discovered during the pregnancy check. The property management in the community has also gone to his house several times to conduct ideological work because of the report. I have been indiscriminately attacked by this child before. I'm afraid this kind of child will mutate into a super male zombie. The most extreme thing was when a girl from Building 5, Room 101 sent a message. Her weak and helpless tone was heart-wrenching, and when she spoke, it almost gave me a heart attack. Others at least need some supplies, but she directly asked if she could be taken in. She said that her parents died outside on the first day of the apocalypse, and she is the only one left at home, pitifully emphasizing that she eats very little and will help us with work and chores, because she lives on the 1st floor, where the danger level is the highest. We asked that you must take her in, otherwise, you would be a murderer. Oh, I understand. Tau Rura version 2.0. I just chuckled. In this lifetime I had a Tau Ruru. I can't possibly take another one back. In the community group, they change their ways of playing the victim and moral coercion every day. My mom and I just take it as an extra source of amusement and never reply. Once the internet is down for a while, they will behave themselves. Just a few days after we fell silent, He Yunzhao took the initiative to speak proudly in the group. Why should we give our things to you? You are all shameless beggars. After he finished saying this, he felt relieved, but it also confirmed the speculation that my family has a large amount of supplies, and since then, there has been a lot of activity in front of my family's iron gate. The occasional swaying zombies are reassuring. Many who came out to look for supplies regarded my home as the first stop for looting. Some lay at the door crying miserably, some claimed to be relatives wanting to support my mother in her old age, and others directly pried open the door with iron wires. However, the hundreds of thousands spent on reinforcement were not in vain, not to mention the armored door. Even the outermost iron gate remained unshaken no matter what tricks they played. In the blink of an eye, the apocalypse has arrived for a month. And in my memory, the internet completely cut off at the end of this month. The increasingly cold weather in August follows. In the surveillance, Tao Mei's apartment is staging a survival battle. When they realize that this disaster is not just a simple flu virus, Tao Mei takes on the role of the protagonist. She believes that since He Xiong and his son live in her house, she has the right to control the household resources, having long selectively forgotten that she was once He Xiong's mistress. A few days later, because they were not full, He Xiong and He Yunzhao had a big fight with Tao Mei and her daughter. The disparity in military power has caused a dramatic change in the relationship between the two sides once again. He Yunzhao initially just had a moment of inspiration and stored some things in Tao Mei's small apartment, which couldn't last long. Just 2 days before the internet was about to be cut off, My mother and I saw He Xiong and He Yunzhao discussing how to take over this 90 square meter house. They also plan to bring Tao Ruru, I said. Why hasn't He Yunzhao responded after sending a message once, at the beginning of the apocalypse? It was indeed not suitable to go out, but later there were many opportunities, besides being reluctant to part with those supplies. There was also the reason of Tao Ruru. In the end times, there is no morality in order to survive, just like Tao Ruru. After learning from He Yunzhao that we had stockpiled a large amount of supplies, she devoted herself to He Yun and turned against us, and Tao Mei, who originally favored her in terms of resources, became the isolated object in the small apartment. If we cannot unite in the end times, then someone will inevitably sacrifice. In the past it was my mother and me. In this life it is Tao Mei. When He Xiong clearly realized the arrival of the apocalypse, Tao Mei, the woman who provided him with emotional value, became useless. What he needs is supplies that can fill his stomach and a shelter that won't be eaten by zombies. At the same time, he and He Yunzhao naturally believed that we would happily accept their return. After all, we are just two weak women, but they are men. Just as I stood on the electronic scale and hadn't had the chance to lament that I had gained 5 pounds, I heard the sound of the doorbell. I curled my lips and was not surprised. These days, the iron gate at my home is almost like the bell in a temple that gets struck several times a day. The electronic scale is also placed right at the door. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hear the sound. Just as I was about to leave, I heard a faintly familiar voice, Jiang Yi. Hurry up and open the door for me. Are you deaf in there? Son and I are standing outside so dangerously. Why don't you hurry up and open the door to let us in? Why haven't you opened the door? Your dad and your brother are back, and you've been silent. Are you dead? I hate it so much that my teeth itch. Who gave them the nerve? I knew they would come over during this time before the internet went down, but I didn't expect them to come so early. Mom put on a thin coat and walked out of the bedroom yawning. To prevent life from being too boring without the internet after the apocalypse, I downloaded hundreds of novels. These past few days, she has been following me and staying up until midnight or 1 or 2 o'clock, not wanting to sleep. Recently, the temperature has dropped unusually sharply, and it is already -7 or 8 degrees outside. The heated room and the soft quilt are just too comfortable to sleep in. Don't think about He Xiong's infidelity, and don't worry about He Yunzhao's academic and life issues. During this time, Mom has practically become 10 years younger. How's it going, Cho? What do you want to eat for breakfast today? How about avocado scrambled egg toast with walnut black sesame paste, or purple sweet potato and yam cakes paired with black glutinous rice milk porridge? She yawned. I think the snail noodles you recommended to me last time are also quite delicious. By the way, the enigmatic cold young master has 20 treasures, with so many rumors about the male lead before he meets the female lead. Is he really a virgin? Weakly pointed at the door. Mom, He Xiong and the others are here, making a scene outside. Mom paused for a moment, tightened her coat, and her demeanor suddenly became fierce and sharp. It's actually a good opportunity to test my skills after reading more than a dozen face-slapping articles recently. Saying this, she walked into the kitchen to make breakfast. I thought she went in to get a kitchen knife. Indeed, in the apocalypse, what could be more frustrating than comfortably enjoying a hearty breakfast in front of someone who is hungry, cold, and constantly on guard against zombies? If the other person is so angry that they can't help but swallow while cursing, then that would be very bad. When He Xiong and the others were about to shout out of breath, my mom and I finally showed mercy and opened the armored door. Before opening the door, I also confirmed through the peephole that the first iron gate was in good condition. There is a 2-meter gap between the two doors, and I moved a small tea table and 2 small stools into the passage, carefully placed various freshly baked foods in the kitchen, fragrant and warm, with a faint steam wafting out. What ought to matter? Hurry up and open this door. My brother and I are almost frozen to death outside. I called for a long time just now and no one responded. Are you deaf? Where is your mother? Lies. I raised my finger to my lips to signal him to be quiet, even more smug than Zhenhuan's gesture to silence someone. Stop arguing. If you keep arguing, I'll go in and eat breakfast today. My house has good sound insulation and the heating is on, so when I watch cartoons on TV, I might not be able to hear your calls anymore. It is also because the temperature started to drop sharply like a free-fall ride a few days ago that those originally active zombies were affected, much less and much slower. Otherwise, their voices will attract a horde of zombies in no time. Sister, I know you hate me, I shouldn't have come, but Uncle He and Yun Zhao have been freezing here for a long time. It's inevitable that they feel resentful. Please let them in quickly. Tao Ruru timidly walked out from behind He Xiong. Her eyes either frozen red or red from grievance, looking as if she wanted the whole world to feel guilty. This statement is truly self-sacrificing for others, appearing to be thoughtful for the sake of the brave, but in reality, it contains a lot of calculation. If I let He Xiong and the others in, will the situation still be under my and my mom's control? Are all people really fools? Funny, really funny. Sure enough, He Xiong got angry at Tao Ruru's words. Dead girl. Hurry up and open the door so I can come in and beat you to death. Wow, great, I can let you hit. Can you come in? Still unable to distinguish the situation, the apocalypse has not changed his stench of male chauvinism, truly a legacy passed down for thousands of years, quite resilient. I took a bite of the freshly fried crispy spring roll in front of him, so fragrant that I could hear Tao Ruru swallowing with a gulp. The two of them also swallowed hard, and I looked at them, each looking pale and emaciated like beggars at the door. Where's your mom? Hurry and call your mom over. Look at me struggling to handle it and still placing my expectations on my mom. Before she finished speaking, Mom came over with a bowl of snail noodles. They were barking madly like dogs locked in a cage waiting for food. Jiang Yi, hurry up and open the door. Is there anything left? I'm about to starve. Mom, let me in quickly. I sent you a message. I have already seen the true colors of that mother and daughter. I am on your side. Why did you prepare so much food for this dead girl? Use the supplies at home sparingly, and don't waste them casually. Say, hurry up, dawdling like this will really attract a horde of zombies later. My mom just glanced at them, sat down on another bench, and showed no intention of taking another 2 steps forward, even slurping a mouthful of noodles. The taste of this snail rice noodle is just powerful. The people outside the iron gate looked like starving, desperate dogs. Jiang Yi, what do you mean? He Xiong calmed down and questioned while panting in the mist. Mom slowly put down her chopsticks, not at all like someone in a post-apocalyptic world. Instead, she seemed even more harmonious and gentle than before. It's just that the words spoken seemed to be poisoned. I'm afraid that if she licks her lips, she will poison herself. What does it mean? It's boring, watching a few stray dogs wagging their tails and begging for pity with my only daughter. He looked as purple as a piece of pig liver. Yun Zhao suddenly burst into tears. Tao Ruru knelt on the ground, looking at us pleadingly. Aunt, I know my mom ruined your marriage, but Uncle has seen my mom's true colors. He has realized his mistake. My mother will be punished. We have already abandoned her and taken away all the supplies from home, at this time. It is definitely not safe for you and your sister to guard so many supplies alone. After all, Uncle and Yun Zhao are men. Only if we unite as one can we safely get through this dark period. I turned my head to look at the living room at home. I asked how Tao Ruru was so sure that we had so many supplies, and it turned out she saw the things leaking out of the living room. Well, it wasn't in vain that I just calculated the door opening angle precisely, but the supplies they brought. I searched for half a day with my eyes and could only guess with some uncertainty that it was the mini bag that Yun Zhao was carrying. A slap landed on Tao Ruru's face, with disheveled hair and a face covered in dirt. Tao Mei, whose clothes were splattered with black blood, rushed forward. She trembled as she pointed at Tao Ruru, her tone desperate. I am your mom. I internally agree that during this time of watching the surveillance, Tao Mei has indeed been protecting Tao Ruru, helping her compete for resources between the two men. Yun Zhao, however, if the upper beam is not straight, one should not expect the lower beam to be straight either. After Tao Mei finished this sentence, she went to tear at He Xiong, scratching and clawing, not worried that her loud screams would attract zombies. Anyway, she has already been abandoned, so she might as well let it all go. He was so annoyed that he directly knocked Tao Mei to the ground with an elbow and turned to kneel at the door. In the apocalypse, the disparity between men and women is so cruel. My mother and I watched this long-awaited good show through an iron gate, guessing what He Xiong would say. After all, we've heard all sorts of nonsense lately, and if He Xiong doesn't say something meaningful later, it really would be unfair to us for braving the cold outside to have breakfast. Dear, I was wrong. Please forgive me. He was crying while slapping himself. I shouldn't be fickle, I shouldn't cheat, I was blinded before. As the saying goes, a day as a couple means 100 days of affection. Considering that we have lived together for so many years and have Qiuqiu and Yunzhao, please forgive me. A child cannot be without a complete family. At this time, it is really not safe for you and your daughter to be guarding so many things. My son and I can protect you. I swear I will never be blinded by the glamorous world again, and I will be loyal to you for a lifetime. I love you and respect you. You tell me to go east, and I won't go west. I can't help but think it should be drinking a pot of muddy wine in the rivers and lakes instead of listening to disgusting people here. Does He Xiong still think of himself as something that is being fought over? He wouldn't think that Tao Mei was good to him back then for someone else's sake, right? Nor would he think that his mother was heartbroken over his infidelity, right? No way, no way. Now the apocalypse has arrived. His small company is equivalent to garbage, and his heartfelt vows are worth even less than the crumbs of the spring rolls I just dropped. Sure enough, after a man makes a mistake, he will beg you, he may even kneel, and he will slap himself. You must not be soft-hearted. They will swear time and again. Men love oaths the most. Their oaths are no different from a dog's bark, so don't believe them. Teacher Yu Hua is truly not deceiving me. I heard my mom snort sarcastically, talking about how a day as a couple means 100 days of affection. I still feel that couples are like birds in the same forest. When disaster strikes, each flies away. Is more fitting. When you went to the Tao Mei apartment to have an affair with her, you probably didn't think of us as husband and wife. When you called me an old hag and planned to make me leave with nothing, you also didn't think of it. Now that your life is in danger, you suddenly remember the bond of a day as husband and wife. This sentence left He Xiong so shocked that he couldn't speak. Mom looked at him with disdain, her tone equally contemptuous. Do you really think I am just an honest housewife cooking 3 meals a day in the kitchen? Don't forget, you were just a poor boy back then, relying on my family to have what you have today. Qiuqiu, do you know what this is called? I replied in a second. Phoenix man, if it weren't for the apocalypse coming, the evidence in my hands would be enough to make you leave with nothing. This call and response made He Xiong's face turn pale. He Yunzhao knelt down like them, speaking sincerely. Mom, I'm your son, you definitely won't let me die, right? I was too immature before, which is why I chose to side with Dad. What I said back then was all out of anger, you know. I regretted sending you that message that night. If there were no past lives, we would really feel soft-hearted about what He Yunzhao said. He Yunzhao thought so too. He even speculated whether He Xiong and the others were here, which made Mom and Sister inconvenient to open the door for him. Several pairs of eyes were fixed on us, the mother and daughter. Their gaze filled not only with the desire to survive but also with a greed that could not be concealed in time. Alas, I have a kind heart, but it's not very practical for all 4 to come in. There aren't enough resources. I'll only give you 1 spot. You all discuss who will come in. Now it's my turn to be shocked. I looked into my mother's eyes and instinctively felt relieved. It suddenly became quiet outside the iron gate for a minute. Human nature begins to emerge at this time. Between He Xiong and He Yunzhao, and between Tao Mei and Tao Ruru, only not between He Xiong and Tao Mei. That was a fragile relationship wrapped in money and beauty, and at this moment, there was no need to consider humanity. Dad, you are getting old, anyway. You won't live as long as I will, so just give this opportunity to me. Didn't you say I am your only son, and everything will be mine in the future, if I freeze to death or get bitten to death outside? Our He family will be completely cut off. He Yun naturally opened his mouth to make a request. He Yunzhao lowered his head and chuckled. Where is there a son who wants his father to die? Yunzhao, I have been good enough to you before. Whatever trouble you caused outside, I spent money to settle it for you. now it's time for you to repay me." After speaking, He Xiong suddenly pulled out a dagger from his pocket and stabbed at He Yunzhao. He Yunzhao reacted, and the two began to wrestle. It seems that He Xiong wants to use the process of elimination to become the only candidate. When people reach the end of their rope, they are prone to losing their reason, just like they are not considering the truth of their mother's promise at this moment and are filled with hatred for each other. I feel that as long as I kill the other party and prove my strength, I can enter this iron gate and live without worries in the apocalypse. Tao Ruru had long been scared into a corner by that slap. And upon hearing that only one person would be let in, she quickly realized it definitely wouldn't be her. She waited for death in despair and numbness. Tao Mei looked at this scene, laughing and crying like a madwoman, walking towards the iron gate step by step. Each step felt unusually heavy. At the last step, the whole person fell to their knees in despair, hands clasped together, and the proud and shrewd head in memory also bowed down. "I'm sorry, Ms. Jiang, I was wrong. I shouldn't have destroyed your family. I have already been punished." She widened her eyes and shook her head at us, saying, "But He Xiong and the others really can't be let in. Men like that are just like dogs, they can't change their ways. Once they betray you, their nature is bad. If you are soft-hearted, you will be betrayed countless times." She cried out again, her hands constantly in prayer. "So I beg you all." I thought she was asking us to let her in, to win a chance for survival for herself. Result: "Please let my daughter live." I saw the look in my mother's eyes directed at her, which carried not only hatred but also a hint of pity. She just wasn't taught well by me. Her nature isn't bad. If she makes you unhappy, you can hit her and scold her. The two of you can control her. If you let He Xiong and the others— Tao Mei let out a painful cry and was kicked away by He Xiong. "Fuck you, bitch. If you hadn't seduced me back then, would I betray my family? Dear, you have to believe me. We've been together for so many years. Do you really want to trust a stranger?" Before He Xiong could continue speaking, He Yunzhao got up from the ground, his face covered in cuts from a blade. He Xiong, who has worked in the fields in the countryside, has an overwhelming advantage over He Yun, who grew up in the city as a young master. But He Xiong is getting older and his endurance is not as good. So the two of them are struggling to part. The breakfast that was served has long gone cold, and my mom and I have no desire to continue watching this play. Just as we were about to get up and leave, the situation suddenly changed. Amid Tao Ruru's screams, Tao Mei, who had originally been kicked to the ground, stood up in an extremely twisted and bizarre posture. The sound of the bones creaking is somewhat harsh. Tao Mei has turned into a corpse. I suddenly remembered her clothes stained with black blood. It was very likely that she was attacked by zombies on the way here. However, I managed to escape by luck. He cursed and quickly got up, frantically banging on the iron door. The leg that had just lost strength in the fight was shaking like a sieve. "Mom, hurry and let me in. Hurry up." He snorted disdainfully and said, "It's just a female zombie. We've killed plenty on our way here." After speaking, he suddenly paused. Everyone also remembered that when Tao Mei rushed over, she not only slapped Tao Ro but also bit and scratched He Xiong. At first, I thought it was just Tao Mei venting her anger for being abandoned by them, but now I think it might have deeper meaning. For example, knowing that he is about to turn into a corpse and deliberately infecting He Xiong, he was so scared that he wet his pants. As soon as I thought he might turn into a zombie, I started banging on the iron door like He Yunzhao. At this moment, Tao Mei, who had completely turned into a zombie, let out a loud roar. Those who have waited long in the apocalypse know that this is calling nearby zombies, while Tao Ruru, who was huddled in the corner and unnoticed, wanted to take advantage of the chaos to escape quickly. She was grabbed by Tao Qin, who began to bite her arm. Such a strong smell of blood will definitely attract a lot of zombies. "Autumn, hurry up and go in." I nodded, quickened my pace, and helped my mom clean up the breakfast on the table. In the apocalypse, even luxury cannot be wasted. The two people were completely taken aback when they saw that we had no intention of opening the door, alternating between pleading and cursing. But who cares about them? We originally came out to watch a play. When the armored door closes, it feels as if it is cut off from the outside world. One can only get close to the door and faintly hear the terrifying sounds outside. I curiously leaned close to the cat's eye to take a look. Autumn, don't go see, Mom called me. They find it very difficult to escape when they hear the noise. The end of the world will definitely come to an end, and we will definitely return to a normal world. Mom hopes that by that time, you will not have the gloom brought by the end of the world. I retracted my curious heart and hugged her tightly. I also believe that the end of the world will definitely come to an end. My mom and I will step into that new world together.